Hello students, welcome back to the next section of the chapter, life processes. So in the last session we had discussed about different types of respiration. So now let us see the mechanism of respiration happening in plants and animals. So respiration in plants, if you consider the respiration in plants can respire throughout its body. So all part of the body of the plants can respire, means all part of the plant can exchange the gases of respiration. So if you take the leaves, in leaves what is the part which is exchanging the gases? Stomata. Stomata helps in exchange of gases in the leaf of the plants. So it happens through the stomata. So if you observe the structure of the leaf, if you can recall, above the stomatal pore, stomatal pore is present in the lower epidermis of the leaves. So if you see the section of the leaf under microscope, you can observe that above that stomata you can find parenchyma cell arranged. You can see palisade and spongy parenchyma cells arranged, and you can see in the just above the stomata you can find spongy kind of parenchyma cell, and you can see the cells is arranged in such a manner that there is lots of air space between them, right? So that is the main features required for all the respiratory organs, whether it's for plants or animals. It need to have a feature such that it will be able to obtain plenty of oxygen for respiration purpose. So here the plant is getting enough amount of oxygen because you can find there is lots of air space between the cells. So it can fill more amount of oxygen rich air in that air space to ensure that there is sufficient amount of oxygen supply. And the plants also can breathe through root and through the lenticels. So the plants have roots, the root have root hairs, right? So root will grow deep into the soil. So where you grow the plants in that area, the soil will not be tightly packed, the soil will be loosely packed, right? So before when we do any kind of cultivation in the field, agriculture field also, what we do is we are actually plowing the land. So why we are plowing the land is to ensure that the soil is not tightly packed, it has to be loosely packed. Why? Because the plant's root also has to breathe. So even the root of the plant can breathe. So as the root of the plant penetrate deep into the soil, it will get the air or oxygen will be exchanged even through their roots. So root hairs will absorb the oxygen which is available between the soil particles. It will be diffusing into the root hairs. The oxygen from soil particle, the space between the soil particle will diffuse into the root hairs, and from the root hairs through the root and stem it will be carried to all part of the plants by diffusion process. So even the root of the plant has to breathe. So that's the reason why we are not supposed to pour much of the water at the base of the plant. So when we water the plants, we have to make sure that we are not pouring too much of water to the plants. What happens if we pour too much of water to the plants? So it leads to waterlogging condition. So when the water is logged around the base of the plants, what happens? Air which has been occupied between the soil particle will escape out. So when you are pouring too much of water, you can see the bubbles coming out, right? So when bubble is coming out, what you can understand by that is the air from the soil particle is escaping out. So when there is no air between the soil particle, the root will suffocate. It will not be able to breathe, and the root die first. When the root die, the whole plant also is going to die. So that's the reason why we should not pour too much of water to the plants. See that the water is not logged around that plant. So it leads to suffocation to the root, and root cannot breathe and the plant will be dying. So what you can understand by this is even the root of the plant also will be breathing. Then you have another thing called as lenticels. Where you can find this lenticels? Lenticels are found when the plants grow older. In the green stem they will be having stomata. As the green stem grow older, they develop secondary tissues. They will develop an outer covering of the stem called as bark, right? So in the bark, what you can see some kind of opening or rupture, like cells as if it has been ruptured, right? So that opening or the ruptured area of the cell is called as lenticels. So what you can actually define lenticels is a area where you can find the cells are loosely arranged. So why the cells in that area is loosely arranged is it will help in breathing, it will help in exchange of gases. So in the older part of the plants, older stem of the plants, that is in the trees and all, the stomata has been replaced by lenticels. The lenticels is the opening where you can find loosely arranged cell through which the plant will exchange the gases. So plant can breathe through stem, leaves as well as through the roots. So the whole part of the plant can respire, it can breathe in, and it will help in respiration process. But if we compare the same thing with the animals, it's not the case, right? Animals have particular organ through which it will exchange their gases. I have already told you about that one. So in case of insects, it is spiracles. In case of earthworm, it is the skin. In case of animals, we have the higher animals like us, the reptiles and the mammals, we have lungs to breathe, and the fishes, they have gills to breathe, right? So in the gills is been used by the aquatic organism like fishes which will live in the water. And you know, water also contains dissolved oxygen, but the amount of oxygen dissolved in the water is very much less when compared to the amount of oxygen available in the atmosphere. So in the atmosphere you have 21% of oxygen available, but in water the quantity of oxygen dissolved in the dissolved form is less, very less. So the aquatic organism will not get enough amount of oxygen in the water. So what they do is, how can they deal with that is, they will be breathing profusely. You can see the breathing rate of the aquatic organism will be in a faster rate. They breathe profusely. So in that manner the aquatic animals can manage the amount of oxygen available in the water. So you can see, if you observe the fishes in the aquarium, you can see they will be opening and closing their gills. So it's through the gill cover they are taking in the oxygen which is dissolved in the water, right? So you can see they will be profusely breathing. They have a faster rate of breathing to balance the oxygen in their body. And what is the net exchange of gases in plants during daytime and during night time? You know, during daytime there is photosynthesis process happening as well as respiration happening, but during night time it's only respiration, because for photosynthesis light is required. During night time there is no light, so only respiration happens during the night time, whereas in daytime both respiration and photosynthesis is seen in plants during daytime. So what happens during daytime? During respiration process, the plants take in oxygen and give out carbon dioxide, right? So they are taking in oxygen and giving out carbon dioxide. During photosynthesis process, what the plant is doing is, they takes in carbon dioxide to prepare the food, and after preparation of food they give out oxygen as a byproduct. So this is what happened during daytime. So there is intake of oxygen and giving out of carbon dioxide, and even the taking intake of carbon dioxide and giving out of oxygen both happens. But whatever carbon dioxide has been released during the respiration process, that will be used up by the plants for photosynthesis process. So whatever carbon dioxide has been given out, it's been used for photosynthesis. So there will be no net release of carbon dioxide during daytime. So there will be all the carbon dioxide which has been taken will be used up by the plants during daytime. But what happens with the oxygen? So during respiration it is taking in oxygen, during photosynthesis it is giving out oxygen. So out of this oxygen which has been given out during photosynthesis, little amount will be used for respiration purpose and the remaining will be given out. Understood? So during respiration process they are taking in oxygen, giving out carbon dioxide. That carbon dioxide has been used by plants for photosynthesis. So whatever carbon dioxide has been released during respiration process is been used by plants for photosynthesis. So the plants is not giving out any carbon dioxide, it's only taking in the carbon dioxide. But what about the oxygen? During photosynthesis it is giving out oxygen. In that only little quantity of oxygen has been used for respiration process, the remaining is being given out. So what has been given out? The next exchange of gas we consider, what is being given out is oxygen, what has been taken in is carbon dioxide. So we can write the net exchange of gases during daytime in plants is carbon dioxide is taken in and oxygen is given out. Carbon dioxide will be diffusing into the plants and oxygen will be diffusing out of the plants. What is the case during night? During night there is no photosynthesis, only respiration. So during respiration what has been taken in? Oxygen is taken in, carbon dioxide has been given out. So that carbon dioxide is not used up because no photosynthesis is happening during the night time. So we can write the net exchange of gases during night time in plants is taking in of oxygen. Oxygen will be diffusing into the plant and carbon dioxide will be diffusing out of the plant. So this is the next exchange of gases taking place in the plants during daytime and during night time. So now let us look into the respiration in human beings. So respiration in human beings happens with the help of a system called as respiratory system, right? So our respiratory system contains a respiratory organ called as lungs. So which is the respiratory organs in human beings? It is lungs. So it is through the lungs, by the help of lungs, we are exchanging the gases which is required for respiration process. So let us look on to the structure of the respiratory system here. So this is the respiratory system. So respiratory system in our body is located in the thoracic cavity of a human beings. So thoracic cavity of the human beings is separated from the abdominal cavity by a thin sheet of muscles called as diaphragm. You can see this is called as diaphragm. So this diaphragm separates the thoracic cavity from the abdominal cavity, and within this thoracic cavity you can find that is in the chest cavity you can find our respiratory system. So the respiratory system is made up of the different parts. So it starts from our nostrils of the nose, and it passes on to the nasal passage. From there you have something called as pharynx. So you can see pharynx is a common passage for windpipe as well as for the food pipe. So if it has been like this, it will be entering into the windpipe. Through this it will be entering into the food pipe. So here where you can find, so here pharynx is a common passage. So here there will be a small muscular layer or sheet called as epiglottis. So what is the function of epiglottis is, whenever we eat the food, so it will be blocking the windpipe. So it will prevent the entry of food into the windpipe. So that is the reason why the elder says not to speak while having the food. So if you try to speak while having the food, what happens is the epiglottis will open and the food may enter into your windpipe. So what happens, immediately your body will react to that. It will help you to cough and bring out the food from the windpipe. So it is not good to speak while eating the food items because of this reason itself. So pharynx form the common passage for food pipe and windpipe. So here respiratory system includes the windpipe. So it will be reaching the trachea. It will be reaching the structure called as larynx. So larynx is also called as voice box. So voice box you learned in your 8th standard. It's the voice box which will be developing in the men's, that is in the boys during the age of 15, 16, 17, 18, that age, that is during the puberty period. So it will be enlarging and it will lead to the change in the voice. You learned in your 8th standard. So that is larynx. And after larynx you have trachea. So this trachea is covered by many small ring-like cartilaginous bones. So you can find many ring-like cartilaginous bones which will help in vibration and production of sound. So here the trachea, it will be then branching into bronchus. You can see two bronchus branching from the trachea which will be entering into the two lungs. So we have two lungs in our chest cavity. So each of the bronchus will be branching into the lungs which is located at the left and right side of the chest cavity. And the bronchus, you can see it is being further divided into another part called as bronchioles. Further division of bronchus is called as bronchioles. So bronchiole is being ending with at the end of the bronchiole you can see many small air sac like structure, and that is called as alveoli. So alveoli is the most important part of this respiratory system because it is here where the exchange of gases is taking place. So actual exchange of gases is taking place through the alveoli. So what is alveoli? It means it will be looking like a bunch of grapes. So if you just look at the enlarged picture here, the bronchus is branching into bronchioles. At the end of the bronchioles you can see the small air sac like structure called as alveoli. So this alveoli, the air which has been inhaled will be finally reaching the alveoli. Here the exchange of gases will be taking place. And this alveoli will be completely surrounded by very rich supply of blood, that's blood capillaries. It will be completely surrounded by blood capillaries for exchange of gases. So now we can see how the respiratory gases will be passing through the respiratory system. It is when we inhale, the gas will be, the oxygen rich air will be entering into our nostrils. From the nostril it will be entering into the nasal passage, and from there into the pharynx, and then from there into the larynx, trachea, bronchus, bronchioles. Finally it reaches the alveoli where it will exchange the gases. So I have said you about the features of respiratory organ. What are the features a respiratory organ should have for the efficient exchange of gases? And I said you will be comparing that features with our human respiratory system. So what is the first which you have learned? So respiratory organ should have large surface area. So large surface area in order to increase the amount of exchange of gases. So here you can see we have our human heart is having millions of structure called as alveoli. So I said you it is an alveoli where the actual exchange of gas is taking place, is in the alveoli. So in our lungs it contains millions of air sacs, millions of air sacs. So if you try to open that alveoli and try to join it, it will form a large surface area. It will be reaching to about 80 square meters. It may spread to about 80 square meters. If you try to remove all the alveoli from the lungs and open it and arrange it in an area, it will reach to about 80 square meters. So that big is the surface of the alveoli when it has been put together. So it will be almost to the size of a tennis court, they say. So that is the amount of surface area present in the human respiratory system. That is in the, if you take all the alveoli together. So we have enough amount of, large amount of surface area or large surface area for the exchange of gases in the human respiratory system. So what is the second feature it should have? It should have thin wall for easy diffusion of gases. So here even the alveoli. So alveoli is having very thin walls so that easily the oxygen and carbon dioxide gas can be diffused in and out of the alveoli. So the second feature is also fulfilled here. So alveoli where the actual exchange of gas is taking place is in alveoli. So alveoli is having a thin wall which will help in easy diffusion of gases. The third thing is rich supply of blood. So even in our respiratory system, that is around the alveoli, you can find it will be completely surrounded with the blood capillaries. It is having very rich supply of blood for the, which will help in exchange of gases. So our respiratory system will have all the three features which is required for the efficient exchange of gases. So this will be asked in the exam to write the three features which will increase the efficiency of exchange of gases in the human respiratory system, or generally they will be asking the features of any respiratory system. So that's for today's class. In the next session we are going to learn about how the actual respiration process happens in the human respiratory system. So we'll be winding up the session today. Thank you.